Your house in order. That is the theme for today. We're going to be talking about Saturn going direct. So, Saturn rules how we relate to work, time, it can be constriction, boundaries, but I prefer to think of Saturn as a healthy paternal parent. It has when it's in its highest expression, I feel like it's the divine, healthy father energy, the one who says, okay, if you really want to make a dream come true, you have to have structure, support, a way forward. I might be looking down at my notes from time to time here. So, Saturn, it went into retrograde July 13th of this year, 2025, and it's going to turn direct November 27th, 2025. I think is that actually Thanksgiving Day? That might be Thanksgiving Day in the United States. Um, but the thing is, this is a great week, a great time to be looking at what you learned about your relationship to structure, your relationship to boundaries, and what was your relationship to work these past 5 months? What did you learn? What did you change? What evolved? What changed? What got blown apart? Sometimes that happens during a Saturn retrograde. Sometimes you have to find a whole new way of working something. That definitely happened at my day job in a couple of projects. And I just put that together that happened during this Saturn retrograde. So this is why it's good for me to do these videos for myself as well as it is for all of you. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. But now I want to talk about what do we also focus on going forward? Like, if you have time this week or next week, take the time to reflect on what this past Saturn retrograde taught you, what you're learning, what you want to fix, what you want to move forward, because it will be going direct, excuse me, it's going to stay direct from November 27th, right now in Pisces. And then it's going to retrograde next year, July 26, 2026. And the other big piece, the other thing happening in the background, we are, of course, against the backdrop of Pluto and Aquarius, where we see government structures, things imploding, the ways we relate to our government changing. Saturn has an impact on that as well, in addition to Pluto and Aquarius. But we're also moving towards that great conjunction, that Saturn Neptune conjunction. That's going to be February 20th, 2026, when Saturn and Neptune are both going to be in Aries. Saturn will return to Aries February 13th, 2026. So this is why I say this is about taking the time between now and especially February through March, really. Get your house in order, strengthen your foundations. We will have big upheavals happening in February because of the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And it's also the beginning of a new eclipse series. We have eclipses, they go for about usually every 18 to 24 months. So effectively, eclipse series are 2 year cycles. And I kind of like looking at my life, my intentions in both the eclipse series, those 2 year cycles for my long term planning. And then for more short term planning, I like to do it around the equinoxes and the eclipses. A lot of astrologers do it that way. So we have the fall equinox in September, and we're going to have the winter solstice coming up in December. So I'm looking at things that I wanted to accomplish between the fall equinox and what I want to have complete by December 21st. So you may want to look at that as well. And Saturn going direct is a great time to be looking at that sort of thing as well. And then you could also look at 2026. What do you want to have happen between the winter solstice and the spring equinox in March? And then what do you want to have happen between the spring equinox in March and the summer solstice in June? And then again, what would you like to have happen between the summer solstice and the fall equinox? And then again, fall equinox between the winter solstice. So that's one way to look at mapping out 2026. And the other way to also look at it, or how I like to consider it, is what have I learned from Eclipse series? So we closed out the Pisces Virgo Eclipse series that ended in September. And now in February, we're going to have the Leo Aquarius Eclipse series begin. So right now, we're in that in between space, Which used to really freak me out before I understood astrology and I knew what was happening. Like I could feel the transition intuitively, and many of you probably can as well. Especially if you're a light leader, an empath, a psychic, if you have those kind of abilities, if you're a spiritual healer. And so I used to have this anxiety between these liminal periods, that in between phase, because I didn't know what was happening. I could feel a big change about to happen, but I didn't know. And so now I have learned to work with that energy, being in this in between space, in between eclipse series. Like I know something major is going to happen in my life next year, like after February, or it might happen during the actual eclipse in February, or it might be a couple months out. Sometimes it takes 2 to 6 months before the big things unfold from an eclipse. But I think many of us feel like there is a big change coming, both individually, personally, and on the collective level. So it'll also be interesting to see what transpires on the world stage next year around the February eclipse in Aquarius. So this is a time to look at how you want to do things differently. Where can you strengthen your foundations in your projects, in your business, in your personal life? What has come to the surface for you these past 5 months that's no longer working? What needs to be done differently? What needs to be up leveled? And maybe there are parts of your life, parts of your business that need to be excavated completely, like just ripped up and thrown out. And you need to do it completely differently and in a new way. These are the questions to be asking as Saturn turns direct, and to look at what you want that to look like for the first half of Saturn being direct. And you can even look at what you want to accomplish in your business between now and Saturn going retrograde next July. That may also be one way to use this energy as well to your advantage. But intuitively, what I'm really hearing is get your house in order, create a strong foundation. That way, when these big changes happen in 2026, you have a solid foundation to stand on. You have practices that ground you. So, of course, keep doing the shadow work, keep doing the spiritual healing, and create the spiritual and emotional and mental support that you need. So if you need to find a new therapist, or if you need new healing modalities, new energy work to do, especially somatic work, find a way to really get in your body. For me, that's exercising, going to the gym. I'm doing that once or twice a week now, and it's really helpful. It's a really great way for me to work out my feelings and just to feel my body, to move energy through my body. The other day, I did some drawing, some sketching just for fun. I've never taken an art class. I'm not a visual artist, but sometimes instead of journaling, I like to just sketch or draw and just follow my own intuition with it, because it unlocks something in me. It helps me feel my feelings in a different way. And then as a result of that, I had a breakthrough on another project that I was working on the very next day. So this is what somatic work can do for us. Anything that gets us in touch with our physical body, that helps us feel grounded, stay safe, stable, and secure. Find ways to do that for yourself. Maybe it's breath work. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's just taking a walk on a regular schedule for some people, once a week, that kind of thing. And drinking lots of water. We are becoming a new human being. We have new light codes turned on within us. New aspects of our DNA are being awoken. And water, staying hydrated, is really key to that process. Flushing out the toxins, releasing things that don't serve our bodies. Maybe you find your taste are changing. I know that's happening with me. I'm craving certain things less, and I'm craving more nutritious food more. And that's part of this process of becoming a new human. And I like to use astrology to help in that process, because we are developing new strengths, new skills, new gifts, new talents. And when you can do that from a stronger foundation, you're able to be of service to more people. You're able to serve the collective at a larger level. And I feel like this is what we're being called to do. What Saturn in particular is asking all of us to do is to step up into those leadership roles. But to do that, you have to have a firm foundation. You have to stand on solid ground for yourself, internally and externally. So I'm encouraging you to do that. I also can support you in that. I have my Skool platform that's $9 a month or $50 for the year. I'm also doing one-to-one you illuminated sessions. Those are paid, but I'm also just recently rolled out, excuse me, free witnessing you sessions. They're only 30 minutes, and there'll be a link below for that, so you can get a taste of what it's like to work with me one-on-one. I do what I refer to as astro counseling. It's my combination of my skills and gifts, empathetic listening, astrology, and energy work, spiritual mentoring. So if that calls to you, you want to get a taste of that, check out my free Witnessing You sessions. I'm also offering general birth chart readings by email only for $47. So you can check out the link for that below as well. And wishing you so much love, so much joy, so much ease and grace, and be kind to yourself and give others grace, especially since I know this is a holiday week. People are going to be in very stressful environments. This is a great time to practice nonviolent communication and active listening as you're with people that you may disagree with. Um, just pace yourself and come up with strategies to deal with those situations if that's what you're going to be walking into later this week. You know, map out a plan, come up with a communication strategy to deal with that difficult relative or that difficult guest at the Thanksgiving dinner. Um, I find it's easier when I have a plan how to navigate those situations. And if you're someone who is really uncomfortable with Thanksgiving and it feels like an inappropriate thing to call a holiday, you know, maybe it's a day of mourning for you. And if that's the case, honor that, create space for that. Um, my invitation always is to do what you need to do, what's best for you. Honor yourself, trust yourself, love yourself. With that, much love, easily yours, Darice.